Hello everyone, welcome back to week 3 of our Literacy Blitz. This week we're focusing on graphic texts. I'm back here in the Literacy Batcave, so without further ado, let's look at graphic texts. Whenever you do any type of reading, it's really important to set the purpose for reading. And what that means exactly is asking yourself, what am I doing this reading for? What's the purpose of this reading? So the first thing is to ask yourself when you're reading a graphic text is about the details. What details do you see in the graphic? Then you might ask, what types of information does the graphic provide? What can you tell about the graphic just by looking at it? In other words, what's your first impression? And lastly, what types of features should I consider when I see a graphic text? The next few slides are going to help you answer some of these questions. In order to set the purpose for reading, it's important to look at what type of text it is. If it's a map, like what we're looking at in front of us, it's also important to know what the features of a map are, and really what the features of any type of graphic text are. So some of them might include a map, but also a brochure, a diagram, an illustration, or a chart like this one. You should ask yourself, what are the features of the text? Is there a title? Yep, there is one in this one. Are there any subtitles? Well, these could be subtitles. Are there any headings? I don't see any headings. Captions? No. Several illustrations though. You can see the illustrations. And some other information along here that tells us the difference between a snow tire and a summer tire. So looking for those different features can be very helpful in understanding and decoding a graphic text. So during reading, it's important that you follow a few steps. The first one is to read all the labels. Every label has a purpose in a graphic text, and it's important that you don't miss any of those, so read it very carefully. The next one is to follow any arrows or lines for directions to read. Then look for a color or symbols that emphasize important information and check for a legend. To look at the picture, it will help you understand the information. And finally, to look for connections between the visuals and the words. In this particular graphic text, it says the title is to explore the Beijing subway map. So I can see right away, I know it's a subway map. I'm looking at a map on the right hand side, and look at over here, I'm seeing that there's a nice key. So there's a key over here that sort of gives me something to look at that will help me to decipher the graphic. Each of the colors, right, so number 1, I look down here, number 1 and number 1, and it's also red. I know that this red one that's the same line. Okay, look at number 2, the loop line. If I look for the dark blue number 2, that's this one here. There's the loop line right there. So there's the loop line. So all these different subway lines, they all match up. And if you look over here, A, there's the Airport Express. See, I can see the Airport Express over there. So I can determine by looking at the colors and the numbers exactly what's going on in this particular graphic text. Some of the graphic clues to look for include font size. Headings are typically largest and subheadings are medium and the text is smallest. With the headings being largest, that is typically the most important information, the titles or sort of the topic for different areas of the graphic. Always look for arrows or lines in the text. They can direct your reading from one point to another. Follow the arrows because the creator of the graphic text wants you to read that in that particular order. Bullet points, these are these funky little dots over here. If you look over here, these little dots, I don't know why they're called bullets, but bullet points, maybe they look like someone shot a hole right through my piece of paper here. But bullet points, they draw the reader's attention to a list of special features or examples. So it's important that you guys are probably pretty familiar with that, but look for bullet points because they'll give you some of those important details. Boldface type is used to highlight special terms, keywords, or words used for the first time. Words in bold allow the reader to skim and scan easily to quickly locate information without having to read the whole text. may also be done with color. So this is an example diagram from the OSSLT several years ago, and I look right away, I can see the title is The Chemistry Behind Ice Cream. So there we go. So I know something about ice cream. I can see some of the features include text boxes. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 text boxes. I've got 2 arrows, and I have lower third of the graphic text. This whole lower half, I guess you'd say, is kind of a diagram. So looking at this, I can see all the different features, and it helps to make sense before I even really know what it's about. I can see that I can start, my brain starting to make sense of what each of the little features is what kind of information I'm gonna find in each of those. So it's gonna help me to have a better understanding for when I have to answer questions about it. Thanks very much for listening once again this week. We'll see you next week, and I hope this has been informative and that you're learning lots about graphic texts. See you next time.